Next up, we've got Kenny MacAskill, leader of the ALBA party. Give him a big well done.
I want to talk about the future, the two possible futures that face Scotland. The one that we'll have if it's independent and the one that we're going to face if we don't get independence. But I want to first of all touch upon the past, because I was at the Hope Over Fear rally last year in George Square as it was. I went for a meal with my wife afterwards with Alec and Moira. It was the last time that I dined with them. And indeed for many who are here today, you would have been at Hope Over Fear in George Square last year. And that would have been the last time you would have seen Alex Salmond. So it's with some poignancy. But we must never forget that we must remember the man. But what the man would expect us to do is to deliver his dream. It has not died, and it's up to us to deliver it. Those who have inherited his mantle or are in public office are failing to deliver, and that's why we need to take action on his behalf. Equally, I've been asked, and I'm happy to make it clear, because as well as remembering Alex Salmond, we've also got to remember the great John McLean, because there's currently efforts ongoing for a statue. We've got statues all over Scotland to lords and ladies, most of whom did absolutely nothing for the ordinary people, and quite often, and more often than not, did them down and did them things that were very harmful. It's about time we actually put our hands in our pockets and actually got a statue to somebody who actually fought for the ordinary man and woman. So support the John McLean statue. But let me talk about the two futures that we face, because two things I was involved in last week. First of all, I went up to Caithness Bay with my brother, who some of you may know has been very heavily involved in offshore wind. He's now retired and he wanted to see what it had created. Now, I've been at meetings before. I was at a meeting at a recent reopening of offices in Carnoustie. And if you go up the east coast, whether it's from where I came from in Dunbar, you see turbines offshore as well as on the hills. You go up the east coast off Angus and you see turbines. You go past Aberdeen and you see turbines. You go beyond the Black Isle into Caithness Bay and you see turbines. And believe you me, that is only the start. There's going to be many, many more. But whilst you can see those turbines off your shore, and whether you can see them on your shore behind you on the hills, at the present moment we're getting no revenue, we're getting no jobs, we're getting no businesses coming to locate, and we've got a situation that our people can't even afford to heat their homes. What are we getting? Well, in the north of Scotland, as I was arguing with my brother, we're going to get pylons. They've already put in a subsea cable to take the energy that we're producing off our shores directly down, comes ashore to a transmission station, and it's going down to the north of England. We get nothing, because there's few jobs in those transmission stations and there's no other benefit coming. But a subsea cable is very, very expensive. It's a factor of something like 12 or 16 times more expensive than a pylon. So they're also putting in pylons. We'll run from the very north of Scotland down the east coast through the central belt between here and Edinburgh, down through the central borders. Is it providing electricity for Scotland? No. We've already got more electricity than we require. It's to provide electricity for Manchester and for Liverpool and for that huge conurbation there. Are we getting revenue? No. Are we getting jobs? No. Are we getting businesses? No. What are we getting? We're getting our economy undermined because skilled labour's having to leave to get jobs elsewhere. We're seeing that in the fossil fuel industry with Grangemouth shutting, and we're getting our environment trashed. That's why we're going to become quite clear. No zonal pricing, no pylons. Why should we not get the benefit of the cheap energy off our shores and yet be expected to take the environmental and economic damage? So that's the future we face. It can all be different. The first of the floating offshore wind is coming in. And do you know what's currently planned? They're going to manufacture the turbines and the equipment in China. They're going to bring it all over readily assembled and just set it there. It won't even need to come into a Scottish port or harbour. We will get absolutely nothing from what is our natural resource. It needn't be that way. It won't come overnight. You have to build up a supply chain. But if you make them start off by assembling here, if you make them start off by building at least 1 or 2 platforms here, then you develop the skills. if you start making sure that you provide the work for your local shipyard owners, your local ship workers, then you can get the Scottish economy booming, as indeed happens in Denmark, who have got a market, niche market. Scotland should have had that, but we lost it. That is the future we face. We can be energy rich, because don't believe them saying there's no market for it. There is. There are currently cables and there are ways in which the energy that we produce onshore and offshore, and certainly offshore, doesn't need to come into Scotland or the UK. It can go directly across to Scandinavia. And why is it going to Scandinavia? Not to be used by the Scandinavians, it's to go to the German market. And why would the German market want it? Because they can either buy fossil fuels from Vladimir Putin, or they can buy clean renewable energy from Scotland. And I think we all know where they're going to go. So the opportunity for jobs, for wealth, for our country is stupendous. And yet our government here is sleepwalking, and the government in the UK is just continuing, as the Tories are, to handing it all over to multinationals. Because who owns a lot of these multinationals off our shores? State energy companies. State energy companies from China, Japan, Sweden, the United Arab Emirates, even Ireland has a share in Scottish offshore wind through the State Electricity Board, and Scotland has nothing. That shouldn't be. We should be able to provide almost free electricity to our people, to be able to encourage manufacturing industry to come here, because it's cheaper to actually get energy here, and actually energy is what is critical to the economy now, and certainly to manufacturing industry, even the high-tech industry. If you're involved in data processing, you need energy and you need access to water, and that's what Scotland has by the future. So that's what it should be. And equally, when I came back, I was watching the telly, and you see the United Kingdom that we live in. I'm often minded, as I say, of watching a Peter Sellers movie many years ago. I think it was the 1980s. Being There. It was a spoof. It was about a simpleton gardener who suddenly became some strategic advisor. And then you look at Donald Trump and you think, how on earth has this been allowed to happen? In 2014, we were told, you can't go for independence. Britain will be a force for good, they said. You will get the strength of the union. Actually, some of the unionist writers believed that. They thought it would be a force for good. But by 2016, they realised what was happening, because HMX Brexit had sailed and it was taking Britain somewhere off Singapore or wherever, some new Valhalla for a free market, and that's where we're stuck. What we actually saw earlier this week with Trump's visit, that wasn't the United Kingdom or even Great Britain that I grew up with. That was Ruritania. The meal could have been something from epic Rome, getting driven round in a golden carriage with cavalry officers dressed up in theatrical uniforms. What a situation to be in, and yet we are slavish to them. When I was still in Parliament, I remember putting down a question about how many US servicemen there were in the UK. There's over 10,000, I think it was close to 12,000. Everyone in the US Air Force, most of them down in the southeast of England, all prepared for war machines. We've now got them in Lossiemouth, and yet what we face is that we are now complicit with Trump and the United States, as it was even under Biden, in a genocide in the Middle East. We require independence to be able to provide the economy, to provide the basis of a society that we want, and we also require it to be able to provide the foreign policy that our people are entitled to expect. When we had our supposed king fawning along with the British establishment to a latter-day Caligula, Ireland had President Michael Higgins speaking out about a genocide in the wrong. I would much rather be a small country. Even if unionists say we would be insignificant, I may think Ireland may be viewed by them as insignificant, but at least their head of state speaks out about a moral wrong. Our head of state continues to participate in supporting those who are carrying out a genocide. So we need it for our own people, our own economy, and to be able to hold our heads high in the world, because what is happening in the Middle East is not happening in my name, and yet where Starmer is going under Trump is he'll be expecting us to fight a war in Ukraine for the United States, where we'll be using military equipment that were bought from the United States to serve the interests of the United States, and neither us and certainly not the Ukrainian people will get any benefit. We needed independence in 2014 and we're paying the price now. That's why in 2026 it's got to be a plebiscite election. We have got to go for it. The future's there to be ours and to be wonderful for future generations. If we don't, the future we face is frightening. It's time to get out of the UK